What's up, everybody? So today we're going to be breaking down a contemporary hip hop cue, actually a drill cue. So the name of this cue is tackle drill because it is for football. You know how we do it. We'll take a listen to it and then we'll talk about it on flip. Let's get to it. All right, so there it is again. It's called tackle drill, a UK drill type of beat for sports. So a couple of things that'll kind of help us define this cue. So one, it's in the key of A minor, and then the BPM is 140, which is a typical drill BPM. And the other thing is only 18 tracks in this cue. So if you guys see here, it is a pretty small queue. 18 tracks include, counting plus risers. So not a lot of tracks at all. So drill or UK drill, if you're not familiar, it's a subgenre of hip hop, and it's typically identified by a kind of that rubbery glide 808 bass that you hear, and typically it has a lot of movement. You hear like a lot of jumps, like but large jumps, maybe jumps of an octave, things of that nature. And I've not found a drill cue that hasn't been at 140 beats per minute. So it's typically somewhere around 140 beats per minute. So I guess since the drill bass is such an important part of drill, let's, I guess, take a listen to the bass just to get, kind of an idea of what that sounds like. And I'm going to actually take you to the breakdown section because I think that really does kind of show us a lot, what the bass um, is really doing there. So let's listen to the bass there. So you hear all the the jump of the octave and the glide effect. So that is a big part of what you're looking for with the bass that you use and how you would do your bass in a drill type of Q. And a lot of the drill stuff is even a lot more extreme than that. So you can even be, more extreme than that as it relates to your drill bass. And what I'm using Sublab XL, as you see here. And I'm just using an M808 in terms of the bass that I'm using. You can see that my glide time is about at 216 milliseconds. And of course, we are re-triggering. And it just shows, the pitch bend there or whatever. So just with some distortion and then a little more, tape saturation on it or whatever. That's pretty much it in terms of the sound that I'm using there. And then we just have, so let's go back to the top here. We have just the Monster Low Brass, which I've shown you guys in the past, but they're just supporting the bass, and that's pretty much all I have for my bottom end in this cue. So if we play the 808 and the Monster Low Brass together. So you hear that glide. So that's it in terms of our bottom end. That's all we have there. So I showed you, what's happening there. So I think the next thing is obviously the drums. So we'll check out the drums and I'll show you how those are put together very quick. Whoops. So let's do the whole section here, and we'll do it without the tubular bells. So we have. So one thing I didn't show you, so let's start here so you can hear the intro. So always, and I've talked about this in the past, we got a very quick 2-beat intro. Now the only thing that you're missing with the intro, besides that 808 feel, is I also have a pitched riser just to kind of support it a little bit. So here's the entire intro. And you barely even, you just hear that little pitch riser that I have underneath there. Watch this. So where's it? So that's that there. Just a one shot that I found that I like, and I think it just gives it a little character. And then of course the fill again is just a boom. Just a little simple one shot to get us into the cue. So once we're in, one thing that you'll notice kind of how sparse the drums are, in terms of kind of like the space between the kick and the snare. And then you'll notice how aggressive the snare is, and the sound of it is really like a rim shot. So it's a rim shot, but it's really, really aggressive. So I kind of want you to hear that, listen to that, just how aggressive. I mean, it's a really cool sample, and actually a library that I discovered, and actually shout out to Paul Cruteau, who has a great YouTube channel. He's an awesome media composer as well. He actually turned me on to it through his channel. And it's called, it's by a company called I Am a Music Mogul. I Am a Music Mogul. As you can see there, yeah, I Am a Music Mogul. And IamAmusicMogul.com is where you can find their sound packs. And they do a lot of, trap and hip hop sound packs. Some really, really cool stuff. So the rim shot is just from there. Cool sound, really, really good sound. And they got a lot of really high quality hip hop and trap samples. So you definitely want to check them out. And outside of that, besides it, being, real aggressive, it's sparse. I mean, that's it. And the only thing that I have on the top of it to help us out is just that little tubular bell hit that kind of, puts us into that sports and kind of that hip hop vein as well. So if we play the drums and the bass, which are really the backbone of the cue, you get. So you hear that, and we've talked about this in the past in terms of how I treat my kick. So if you hadn't seen my other videos, I just show this to you very quickly. Um, is that you see it one, I have it high pass at 60 because I do like to leave room in the bottom end for my bass. And then the other thing is that I love to run my kick through the CLA 2A compressor. I think it just really helps it kind of cut through the mix. So, and you see, we're getting less than a dB, or right at, you see, we're getting right at like a dB, a gain reduction, and that's it. So you don't need a lot, but I just think it really kind of helps cut through as opposed to, you hear the difference? So man, it makes a huge difference. So yeah, I would just suggest, like, if you want your kick to cut through, that's definitely one way to do it. And then I like to use it on my main snare as well. So you see, I do have it on that rim as well. But you see, again, look, I'm not even getting hardly moving the dial in terms of gain reduction, but it just really cuts. Hear the difference? And it's just all where you have your peak reduction and then your makeup gain set. So here you see I have my peak reduction on the snare right at around 40, and then I don't really have the gain um, any higher. But on my kick, I probably, let's look at the kick here. Oh, I'm sorry. We want to look at the CLA, right? And we look at the kick here. So you see the kick here, I have it just a little hotter. So you see there the peak reduction at almost 43, so 42, as opposed to where I had the rim just a tad bit over 39, but we're still at like 40 though on the gain there. So yeah, and that's pretty much it for our drums. So one of the main things about contemporary hip hop, as opposed to orchestral hip hop, is the use of samples, right? And although we're using samples, we have to be very careful and make sure that they're not like defining or becoming like the focal point of our cue, just the sample themselves. And there are a lot of ways that you can manipulate or treat the samples just to make sure that we're not getting into content ID issues and things of that nature. So you can speed them up, you can slow them down, you can repitch them, or you can just use a small piece of the sample. So these different ways that you can help. So let's take a look at how I use samples, because I do use samples in this cue. It's contemporary hip hop. And I think for it to be authentically hip hop, you do need to use some samples, but you need to be careful. Obviously, in today's, media composer, economy, just to be careful in terms of how you're using them, because you don't want your libraries to run into issues, right? So the first sample that I use is actually this kalimba lead. So let's play that for it. Let me play the actual sample for you first. So this is the sample. Let me play a little louder. So that's the entire sample. So what I do in this particular regard is I just use a piece of the sample. And you hear I was pitched up an octave. That's all I use though. So again, I pitched it up an octave, and you see I have it, in octaves there. And then I just use a small piece of the sample. So we have that. Then another sample that I have, I call it a sound effect. So let me play that for you first. I'll just play the sample for you. So that's a lot. So what I did in this regard with this, and so you hear this is actually pitched in like E flat or something like that. My cue's in A minor. So one thing that I did is I repitched it, one, and then two, I again only used a small portion of the sample. So if we play just the sample, what I use, that's it. Add some stutters to it or whatever, but that's all I use of it. So it sounds like a different sample, right? It doesn't sound like the same sample. So those are the types of things that you want to do. Now, another sample that I use a vocal chop, right? So here's how the chop sounds. So again. So what I did with this, obviously, I changed the tempo because the tempo is different. As you see, the tempo of the sample is actually 124, but my cue is at 140. So you see, I have it warped and I have it synced. So we'll lock to the tempo, but I'm actually playing this as an instrument. So let me play for here what I have. Let's move up here. So I mean, that's totally different, right? So I pretty much played it. So I played it as an instrument. So besides repitching, I actually played this sample as an instrument. So again, that's another thing that you can do in terms of just making your samples different. Although they're interesting and they give you that vibe that you want in terms of it being contemporary hip hop, these are things that you can do so you don't just run into any types of issues. And then the last sample that I use is a string one shot, and let's play that for you. So here's the sample. So it's a really cool, I like it a lot. It's a really cool sample. So what I do with this one is, again, I use a small piece of it, and then I of course speed it up as well because I sync it up. This is at 120 and my cue's at 140, so it's faster. And I only use a small piece, and then I actually enhance it or try to make it different by playing an actual string part with it. So first I'll play what I used. So I use that, right? But to just enhance it a little bit, I actually played this string part in. So I played this in. Of course, it got some delay on it or whatever. So when you put them together now, so just to kind of, change it up a bit or whatever. So now bearing that in mind, so when you hear now those samples kind of play together with the cue, let's listen again. So you see, and it doesn't sound like, hey, you just got this in terms of what I played you, just this one kind of sample that you just put into your cue, and now that's your cue. Because you're going to run into all types of issues. So make sure that you're, doing one of those things or a combination of those things to kind of help make sure that you're not just dragging and dropping samples into your cue and just playing them as they are. And then the only other item or the only other instrument that I have in the queue is a Halion instrument, and it's called the tack piano, and something else I played in. So that's again this tack piano from Halion, and that sounds like this. Well, it doesn't sound like that. It sounds like this. Just to give it a little movement. And so the whole point of this is to sort of play off of that classical string feeling sample that we have to give, have the little arpeggiated piano. But again, you see I use a tack piano. So it kind of has that kind of filtered in, kind of cheapy kind of sound, if you will. We don't want it to sound like some, studio grand or something like that, not for contemporary hip hop. So if we play that together with the string sample, how they work together. So it's like a call and response. So yeah, so we did the tack piano, along with those samples. And then the only other thing is we really have is a few risers in the cue. So let's talk form, right? So like I said, we start with a 2-beat feel to get us into the cue. 1, 2, da 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 da, da, and we are in. So when we get into the cue, we want to come in again, pretty strong, because still it's for sports. So we want to come in kind of guns blazing. So, of course, auto save. So we come in pretty strong. We come in hitting hard. Right? And we play that section out, right? So we come in, and because it's a pretty long section, I don't really do any layering kind of on the second half of that, because I think the harmonic change is actually enough of a difference in the second half of that where we don't have to really change any sound. So, right? And then we come out of our big section with what? A breakdown, right? And again, we break down, but we still want to make sure that we keep good energy, because it is for sports. So even though it's broken down, we still want to feel that energy. So here we go. Going into our breakdown. So we still got that snare hitting. We still got our kick rocking. Some cool little ear candy type things going on. And so what I did here is I just now it's just about, again, layering. So what did we do? So we dropped that top part of the kalimba. Obviously we take all the strings and all that stuff out, but we just drop it down an octave. So, and then you hear the ear candy. Just little simple things that kind of still make it sound hip. So that little thing right there is just some little one shot I found. Just, real simple. But it's those little ear candy things that kind of help, give your cue some interest and stuff like that. And then, of course, you see I still have my vocal chop in there. And then the other thing that makes that chop interesting is the delay that we have on it. So We got a little stereo delay on it. Half note on the left, quarter on the right, and that sounds like this. Just a little something to give it a little more interest. So, don't be afraid to utilize your delays and such, right? Okay, and then the second half of the breakdown, we layer in a little more. So now we add the little piano in there, just to give it a little more interest. And so the other thing that you hear is our transitional elements to get us back into our main theme. So going here, you hear that I'm doing a little more with the bass, a little more with the kick drum and the snare here, just to give us some interest. So listen to how we get into back into the main theme, and of course you got to have some type of riser effect or something as well. So we're coming out of here. Listen. And now we have a harmonic change, I believe, here. So we just changed harmonic. So again, we're into the theme for our second time around. So instead of just staying on the 1, we go to the minor 4. Just to give it a little more interest. So we still come in big. We do our harmonic change. Like I said, going to the minor 4, right? So we're going that A, then we go to the D there. And then we go to the F. So we actually go to the 6, I believe, as well. I think I'm telling you guys right. Is that an F there, or is that a, yeah? Yeah. So it goes to the 6 there. So we got a 1, and then we go to the 4. And then we go to the 6. So just to give it some interest, and then back to the 1. And now we have another breakdown. But now this is different, right? And if we're really highlighting the drill bass in this breakdown. So in that breakdown, we change it up. It's not the same exact breakdown. We don't need the same exact breakdown. So something a little different. And now you see we kind of play this sound effect here a little more. Right? So we just kind of play that up a little more. It becomes sort of the, kind of a focal point, if you will, along with that drill bass, the first thing that I showed you. So let's listen to that breakdown again. So we go there. So listen to the bass, how it's jumping octaves and such. Riser. And we're back to the harmonic change, probably. Yeah, so back to the harmonic change. So now, the way that we try to make this last section, because now we're into our last section, and what we try to do to make our last section just a little different is, you see, I layer even more. So I've added like a third octave to that kalimba sound. So just to try to, make it a little bigger, just to make this section a little bigger than the other section, we just actually layer some more, just to make things a little bigger. So we get to our last section. Okay, and then so the other thing that you see, I just want you to see this. So you see the sound effect, right? Just one octave there, one sound there, right? One octave there. But when we get to our last section, we add another octave there just to make the cue feel bigger as we go into the last section. Now, not drastically bigger because again, it is sports. So they do like things to kind of be even keel, but to the point where you can feel, a lift, you can feel a difference. It's just not a monotonous piece of music, right? And then, so we come out of this last section with our harmonic change. With our big button. And that's it. So that really is the, formula, if you will, for writing this type of cue. Again, UK drill. So just to refresh, 140 BPM, and really kind of that rubbery, bass is kind of, bouncing, but really kind of, stuck, pulled together, glued together. Just jumping, octaves and things of that nature with a real tight, contemporary beat underneath it. And then of course, just be careful with how you're utilizing your samples that you use. So again, I hope that this was helpful to you. And if it was, please like, please subscribe, please share it with somebody that you think it could help, because at the end of the day, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to help and I'm trying to inspire. So until next time, peace and thanks for watching. God bless.